Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you can find all the code example and resources we'll be using today in the GitHub Repository linked in the video description below. This repository serves as a valuable companion to the tutorial, allowing you to follow along, experiment, and explore the code on your own time. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And we are here to see an important part of our NextAuth journey. Today we are going to discover how to update session in JWT. We'll be diving into the world of sessions and JWT and discover two crucial aspects of web development. Understanding how to update and modify session and JWT object is really fundamental to build secure and efficient web application. First of all, what is a session? A session is a way to persist data across multiple requests, and it's like a short-term memory for your web application. On the other hand, JWTs are a compact, URL-safe means that representing claims to be transferred between two parties. So in the JWT, we are going to write some important data that give us information about the user that is authenticated and how to allow him to interact with our web application. So now imagine a scenario where you need to update the user data during a session or modify the information stored in a JWT. That's exactly what we are going to do today. So the session object is not actually persisted server-side even when using database sessions, but only data such as session token. If you need to persist session data server-side, you can interact with the SS token. What is a JSON Web Token? Actually, JWTs are automatically handled as a part of authentication process. When a user is authenticated successfully, Next.js generate a JWT and include it in the session object. The JWT actually is signed, is encrypted with our secret that we specify. We can see the session token on the client side under the cookies, under the value that's called SS token, but is encrypted. We will see like a base64 string. So JSON Web Token are compact, URL safe. That means that they're representing claims between two parties. So these claims can be verified and trusted because they are digitally signed. So when a user logs in and is authenticated successfully, NextAuth actually will generate an SS token. This when typically stored in a cookies. This token serves as a proof of the user authentication and can be sent with subsequent requests to authenticate the user and grant them hashes to protect the resource on the server. We already see the JWT in the previous chapter, how it's composed with the callback function. And now I want to show you how to modify it, how to integrate with new data. And we will see later also how to decrypt from the client side if we need. Usually we don't need to decrypt from the client side, but in some cases, maybe in some scenarios is important. But usually we interact with the JWT in plain text here directly from the callback function, because remember that the callback function receives the encrypted token, signed token from here, verify that is a valid web token, checking with the secret, with the hash that we use to encrypt it, and if it's valid, will allow the customer to go through the protected content in our application. It decrypt here, so when I receive this object here is going to be decrypted. We can modify it, we can include more stuff, more data. We encrypt again when we return back to our client, that it will be stored in the cookies under the SS token values. So this is the trip of the JWT. Let's integrate something here. So let's add some information to the JWT. For example, I want to add the token account level of my user. Just we can simulate that we received the token, we have the user information. We want to check what kind of account level is already activated for that user. We check, for example, here a third-party database that gives us this information. We give back the account level, for example, is premium. So if the account level is premium, we can send back to the client side and we can block and some content for the premium user. We go, let's check. So npm around that. We are in our application. localhost. Let's go directly to our root page. We sign in. We put just random data. Actually, we add the account level to the token. We want to be sure that this value is written in the token. As we saw in the previous chapter, the JWT callback is always invoked before the session. If I get the token from the session, I will have the proof that these new values included in the token. Let's console log our token to see if it takes this new value. So sign out, we start the process again, we sign in, we import some random data, and here the session shows us that we have a new value that is the account level premium, so it works. Usually in the JWT, we have, as we see, the user informations, the expiration times, issued at, so the time when we create the JWT object expiration time, the ID, the unique ID of the JWT. So we want also to interact with the session. What is the difference between JWT and session? The first difference is that this is persistent. It means that everything we do here will follow the object, the session object, and the access token for all the navigation trip of our user through all the pages, all the route until the session is expired. So this is a persistent information. But what we add in the session here for the client side in this specific moment, I want to add to the session something like a new session value here. New session value here is that, so we call it new value. Let's see how it works on the client side and on the backend side, on the server side. Let's sign out. Let's go back again. Okay, so what we see is the token. Like before, we add the account level premium, and we see here on the token, on the session, we add this new parameter here. And we see here because we just added right here. Let's see what happened on the client side. The client side, actually, we cannot see now how the token is updated, but for sure, this encrypted string will contain this new value. And on the other side, we also see that the session is updated with the new session value that is called new value. Okay, so what happened if I remove this one? Let's see, we don't want to update this one. We go again here. We don't see that value anymore. It will not remain inside the session. It's just an information that we send to the client in this moment, but it's not persistent. Well, we don't see the value that we wrote before, so it's not persistent. Let's see if we don't write this. What we see now, that even we remove the action that write the account level premium is still here on our token. That means that it's persistent. Okay, so let's see how is the token. So as we see, we can, from the client side, we can see the token only on the cookies. Okay, we see here, this string is composed by a header that is this part, and the payload is the second part, and the last part is the signature. They are separated by dot. There is a dot that separates them, and while is the payload is base 64 encoded, and actually it's just server-side validation to check if our JWT is from an authenticated user, so we can trust this. But we can read in plain text just with a base 64 some libraries to the code like a etob or other libraries to integrate on the client side. That it means that for security concern, especially when you are transmitting sensitive information, it's recommended to use like HTTPS encryptions to communicate between the client and the server. So in this case, this will be of course protected. Additionally, if sometimes you have some specific security requirements, you might want to explore other mechanisms to encrypt this data. Anyway, you can, for example, decode manually this payload on the client side, just just decoding the base 64. You can integrate a base 64 decoding mechanism, so you can see the JSON content and interact with the values. Update. We just saw right now how to update the JWT from the backend. We want to see how to update this JWT from the front end with the function with the update feature. Let's see. We go to our protected page. We want to integrate here like a button that modify our JWT, okay, that update actually our session. That's an important topic, because from the client side we can modify the session, but we cannot modify the JWT. So actually we have to modify the session, give to the server the update trigger to modify the, remember the session is not persistent. So from the client side we can modify the session, but we can modify the JWT only from the server side. So we need to trigger an update event from the server side to update the JWT from the data that we put in the session from the client side. So let's see how to do it. With this page, let's create a button that trigger this event and put more information on the session data. For example, create a button that when on click will trigger a new function that we are going to declare update session. Okay, so we want to update this session. We call this function. We want to edit the user account level, and we put here we go. We are still persistent with our account level premium. We want to change, okay, we want to change this value to basic manually from the client side. Okay, just pretend there is the customer deactivate this account because doesn't want to pay anymore this kind of fee. So we have to downgrade the user to the basic level. So we edit user account level. We create a function here. It's going to be an asynchronous function, update session here. And when we trigger this, we want to use another method from NextAuth that is called update. We extract the update from the use session here. With this instance, we can update the session. When we trigger the function update session, we want to interact with the update. It's an asynchronous function, it's a promise that you have to wait. And inside this session, inside the parameters, we want to return back the session as we see now and add some other stuff. So we want to update the session object with a spread session. We add the data that is already included in our session. We want to include the new account level, that is account level. Let's see, basic. We want to change to basic. Here is our function. Here. So what happened here, when I trigger this function, when I click on the button, I will trigger this function, and this update event will be triggered also on the client side, and it will be actually triggered here in our NextAuth route API. And we want to update the JWT object with the new account level value to be persistent. So we add this new account level that is basic, and we are going to see here on the terminal the new updated token. So we just run np dev. Okay, so we sign in. We get into our protected page. We get into protected page where we have our modifying button. So you can see here we edit the account level, and here we go, our account level become basic. So it works. Actually, the update procedure involved several steps from the client side. When we click the button here, the edit user, we trigger this client side button, that is that one, is here in the protected page. So we click here, we update, we trigger this function. The function update add to the session object the account level basic. It trigger on the server side the callback function that is JWT. Okay, the trigger here if it's update, I add to the token the new account level and I return an updated token. So this is persistent. Our user now will be always basic from now on with this session, and we return back the session, the updated session, and we see that the token is updated, as we can see here. Because actually we are not going to check the token from the client side, because we have to decode from the base64, so we can see here already decoded, and here we go, it works. So thank you guys for joining in, and I hope that you find this tutorial useful. With the next chapter we are going to discover how to protect API route. We will see the mechanism to protect not only React component, React pages, but also API route. We have reached the end of this video tutorial, and I genuinely hope you have enjoyed its content. If it has been helpful to you, please show your support by liking the video and sharing it with your friends on social media. If you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe to my channel to stay updated on upcoming lessons. Don't forget to check out my website, devergolabs.com, where you will find a plethora of interesting programming content. You can also send me collaboration requests and explore all the programming services we offer. Your participation and support are crucial in my growing and to grow this community and providing you with even more valuable resources. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video tutorial.